It's officially draft week, and we have another mock draft. This is our second and final one that we're going to be doing, and we're just going to let the NFL draft take part. So, with the first overall pick, we're going to be doing rounds, only one round in this one. This is going to be only a one round mock draft. We're going to do picks one all the way through 32, and there's going to be no trades. This is going to be straight up. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be multiple trades throughout round one, but we're just going to keep it how the order has been set in the off. And so let's waste no time. Let's get it underway. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock with the number one overall pick. They traded all the way up to pick number one. They swapped their picks with Chicago. The Bears now have what was the Panthers pick, and it's pretty much the consensus throughout that it's going to be a quarterback. It depends. Now the question is it going to be Bryce Young out of Alabama, or is it going to be CJ Stroud out of Ohio State? Now, there are some concerns with Stroud. His cognitive test, he tested low. He scored an 18. Bryce Young was one of the best quarterbacks in this draft class. So there is some concerns of CJ Stroud. But in the end, though, I think that CJ Stroud gets the nod over Bryce Young. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina goes Bryce Young. I mean, these are two of the best quarterbacks in this year's draft class. But in the end, I think they go with Stroud. So now we go on to pick number two. This is another quarterback needy team, the Houston Texans. Now that Stroud's off the board, I think this answer becomes clear for the Houston Texans. Now, one thing that could really open up this draft is that if Bryce Young it goes to Carolina and that opens the door. I just don't think that Houston is very high on CJ Stroud. So either maybe Houston, does a trade with Indianapolis at pick number 4. Maybe they swap that. Or if they just stay here and just go with the best defensive player and Will Anderson Jr. in Alabama. But as this mock draft is, we have CJ Stroud going number 1. That means that opens up the door for Bryce Young to end up at Houston. I think that's going to be what happens. But there is, if CJ Stroud doesn't go number 1 and Young goes number 1 to Carolina, I could see that happening in a possible trade with Indianapolis. The Colts could be another team. Seattle, maybe they trade up to get Anthony Richardson, or maybe they stay pick number 5. There's could be so many things that could really switch up this draft. So we go on to pick number 3, the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is going to be a pretty easy pick. They need defense, need one of the better edge rushers in this draft class. Go with Will Anderson Jr. He has the tape, really displays, has the size and physicality that Arizona is looking for. They already got a guy like Isaiah Simmons. Budda Baker is wanting a trade. So maybe draft they hit with a safety, but they just got to go with the best defensive player, Will Anderson, at pick number 3. And now we have the Indianapolis Colts. So this is where I think the draft gets interesting. This could be a team that either goes offense here or goes defensive line, maybe goes after Jalen Carter. He's the best defensive tackle in this year's draft class. But I think this is going to stay pretty consistent here. I think they go quarterback, and they're going to go with Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. Now, a lot of people are very high on Anthony Richardson. You know, he doesn't have the tape at Florida, but he has the size and physicality. A lot of people are comparing Josh Allen as well, his size. Will Levis is also gives some Josh Allen comparisons as well. So I could either see Indianapolis go Richardson or Levis here, but in the end, I think that I think Richardson has more upside and that can bring to the table at Indianapolis. So now we go on to pick number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. This could be interesting. Does the Seahawks go with quarterback and find a heir apparent to Geno Smith? Maybe they pick either Will Levis or Anthony in this situation at pick number 5. Let them, stay on the bench for a year under Geno Smith, learn under him, learn the system, and then they'll have their guy moving forward. But I just don't think that they do it here at pick number 5. Maybe at pick number 20 they do it. But I think that Jalen Carter is not going to fall any farther here. I think that they go with the best defensive tackle in the draft. They need some help on the interior of their defense, and I think that they really go after that with pick number 5. And now we go on to the Detroit Lions. Big news yesterday or weeks ago now, whenever this video will be put out. Jameson Williams is suspended 6 games for a gambling violation policy. A few other guys. You had a quarterback, had a safety suspended and cut from the team. So cornerback is still a huge need, but I think that in the end, though, they're going to go Tyree Wilson, get the edge rusher. Tyree Wilson is really can be one of those players that we saw. He can be that Micah Parsons type player. I think that, a lot of comparisons is Hassan, the edge rusher, the veteran edge rusher that's currently. So I think that Tyree Wilson is really rising above. He's really shown out in his pro day. He's really shown out in his scouting report in Indianapolis. I think that Detroit, I think the pick is either going to be defense here. It's either going to be cornerback, but in the end, I think they can go with edge rusher out of Texas Tech. And now we have Las Vegas on the clock. Now this could be an interesting team. Maybe the Raiders move up to that number 2 pick if the Texans don't really like their guy. Bryce Young is taken, but I think this is another team that also goes quarterback here. I think that Will Levis is just going to be a top 10 pick. I think that I don't really see it in him, but I think that he definitely has the size and the stature of him. He has the arm talent to be successful in the NFL. He just hasn't really shown it during his years at Kentucky, especially last year. He had some struggles last year, too many turnovers. He has to be better at that if he wants to have a long, successful NFL career. So the Raiders get their higher pick to Derek Carr. No Derek Carr anymore, and they enter Will Levis, the era Will Levis, in this mock draft. So now we move on now to another NFC South team here in this NFL mock draft, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is pretty easy to me. I think that you see here the top edge, the edge rushers are pretty much gone. I think that it's a little bit too early for Lucas Van Ness. I think they add another corner here. I think they go with the best cornerback in this draft class. You could either go, is it Gonzalez? It is Witherspoon. I think it's 1A and 1B. I think they go with Oregon's Christian Gonzalez here. Get another cornerback to pair up with AJ Terrell, one of the best young cornerbacks in the league. So I think that Gonzalez fits perfectly here in this defensive scheme. And now we have the Bears. Now the Bears need a lot of help, especially on the offensive line. I think that it's either going to be Paris Johnson Jr. or Peter Skoronski. And in the end, I'm going to go with Paris Johnson. I think that Skoronski, Johnson Jr., whoever you go with here, you're going to get a slam dunk of a pick. And I think that Paris Johnson, he is a really good offensive tackle. And I think that the Bears really need that, especially now that David Montgomery is gone. You're going to need some more so not only some more pass rush help, but also some run blocking skills as well. And Johnson can take that to the next level. And now we go on to our last pick here in the top 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles got this pick last year in that Chris Olave trade from New Orleans. So I think that it's pretty possible that this is going to be another defensive player. And I think they go not really reach here, but this guy has really shown a lot of strides. He ran that 4.39 40-yard dash. It really just was eye-catching. Nolan Smith, there's a lot of talent. He's really been buried in that depth chart at Georgia. And I think that he can be paired up with his former teammates. They already have 2 Georgia teammates on the roster with Jordan Davis and then Nakobe Dean, those 2 picks last year. So I think that they continue their Georgia trend and go with Nolan Smith to finish out the top 10. So now we'll move outside of the top 10. We'll have the Tennessee Titans, and this is where I have another offensive tackle. The Tennessee Titans need offensive help. Still some rumors of whether Derrick Henry will be on this team or not. There's some rumors of him going to the Eagles potentially. We'll see if that comes to fruition, but I'm looking at this that Derrick Henry is going to be coming back, and they need some offensive tackle help, and Peter Skoronski is the next one in line. And now we have the Houston Texans coming up again. They had a phenomenal pick at pick number 2 with Bryce Young, and I think they pair him up with the best wide receiver, go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. If these 2 picks happen, A+ already for the Houston Texans draft. To get a guy like Bryce Young, I know that is, he's 5'9", not 5'9". He's under 6 foot. I think he's either right at 6 feet or right below 6 feet. And pair up Jackson Smith and I know that he missed the whole entire 2022 season, but when he was on the field, he was one of the best Ohio State wide receivers. And, we saw Chris Olave, what he did in his rookie season. Just imagine what JSN is going to do, especially in this Houston Texans offense. That could really be one of the better young offenses in the league next year, especially if they get these 2 studs with Smith-Njigba and also Young. So now we move on to pick number 13, the New York Jets. This could also be and offensive tackle. I think it's either going to be either the interior of the offense or the interior of the defense here. I think they go interior of the offense and go with Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of. So already three offensive tackles off the board. And could this be another one? I don't think so. I think that the New England Patriots go defense here. They need some secondary help. I think they go Devon Witherspoon here. That's a slam dunk pick for New England. Like I mentioned, this secondary really struggled in 2022. Add Devon Witherspoon in there. I really like his tape. I think that he really had a phenomenal career with Illinois. Illinois was one of the best defenses in the Big Ten, and Witherspoon was really a big threat in that pass coverage as well. So I think that Witherspoon is one of the better cover corners in this draft. I think that Bill Belichick will find him another diamond in the rough here at pick number 14. So now we move on to the Green Bay Packers. I think this is more than likely either going to be an edge rusher. Maybe they go with the edge rusher out of Iowa, Lucas Van Ness, or maybe do they go with the top tight ends in the draft class? Do they go with Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid? I think that we've seen a trend. The Green Bay Packers as of late have never picked a first rounder, either go wide receiver or tight end. So I think they get another defensive piece here. Lucas Van Ness, he's quite arguably one of the top edge rushers. Will Anderson is top one. Lucas Van Ness is probably the tier below that, but Van Ness has really had a consistent career. And Iowa edge rushers always do well in the league. So I think that Lucas Van Ness would be a perfect fit at Green Bay. So now we go on to the Washington Commanders. I think that they're not going to be on the clock long. Maybe they go Science Torrance here to protect from, running back. So with Antonio Gibson and then Robinson as well. But in the end, I think this is going to be a run here that we're going to see Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Won't have to travel too far from Penn State as he moves on down to the nation's capital. I think that would be also a perfect fit as well. I think that Joey Porter Jr. is also one of the better cover corners in this draft. I just feel like it's a top-heavy cornerback draft class in this one. I think that the top 5 is very solid. If you can pick one up, definitely go for it. Don't waste your time on it. And the Pittsburgh Steelers could also be another team that could be in the mix for the cornerback. Maybe do we see Maryland's Deonte Banks going? And I could also see them going with Kalijah Kancey, the defensive lineman out of Pittsburgh. So I think it's either going to be Kancey or Deonte Banks in this one. It really just depends on what Pittsburgh really has their top need is. But I think that this is like I've hinted, this is going to be a cornerback run. I think that they go with Deonte Banks here, the out of Maryland. So now we go on to the Detroit Lions. They already had their pick, the 6th overall pick, Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Now you see their top need is also a cornerback. So like I mentioned, you're going to see a cornerback run. Now, I've seen, Cam Smith go in the first round. I've seen Emmanuel Forbes also slated in the first round. But in the end, I'm going to go with Cam Smith. I think that they go with the cornerback out of South Carolina. I know that's a little bit too early for Cam Smith. I just like the stature, the pure raw talent that Smith is going to bring to this Detroit Lions team. I think that the Lions have really built a great offense with their free agent signings, and also have, we saw last year what this defense can do. They've really been improving. Next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at pick number 19. I think this is pretty simple. I think they go another offensive tackle. It's going to be Tennessee's Darnell Wright. Tampa Bay, a lot of injuries on that offensive line. Now, they could use some help in the secondary, but I think they can wait around a little bit, maybe with their 2nd round pick, maybe with their 3rd round pick. But I think they really have to have priority of their offensive tackle, especially post-Brady era. You need to help out whoever's going to be your starting quarterback heading into the new year. So now we go on to pick number 20. Like I mentioned, could we see this as another quarterback situation? Probably not. I think that you could potentially see Hendon Hooker. I know that a lot of people, even with the injury concerns, but I think that they can continue to go on the defensive side of the ball. They go with Myles Murphy, the edge rusher out of Clemson. He's also, Clemson has 2 top prospects in this draft class. They have Murphy, they have Brzee. I think that Murphy would be a phenomenal pick. Seattle needs to really hinder on this defensive line. I think that, another team that needs some help on the defensive line is the Saints, which we will touch on here in a couple of minutes. And now we have the Los Angeles Chargers, and I think this is going to be a wide receiver run. You look at this, Chargers and need wide receiver help. I think they go with Jordan Addison here. I think that they keep Addison. I think that they want another speed threat. They already have a big threat with Mike Williams. Keenan Allen isn't getting any younger, so why not add another piece to your really talented wide receiver class that you have so far? Jordan Addison would be a perfect fit out there in LA. So now we go on to the Baltimore Ravens. Now they did sign OBJ to a 1-year contract. You know, they do have some wide receiver concerning that they go with another wide receiver here. You see back-to-back pass catchers go. Quentin Johnston. He had a phenomenal career. TU had a phenomenal season with the Horned Frogs in 2022, leading them to the national championship game. And now we go on to pick number 23, the Minnesota Vikings. We could see a lot of needs here. You know, do they go with a sneaky pick and go with Hendon Hooker in the first round and take the heir apparent to the Kirk Cousins there, or do they go edge rusher here? You maybe go with a Will McDonald, or do they go cornerback? I think the answer is Emmanuel Forbes is their answer. Minnesota still needs some help. They were improving last year, but still some work to do. I think that plugging in Emmanuel Forbes would definitely be the key for this Minnesota Vikings that continue to have success in the NFC North. So now we see the Jacksonville Jaguars. I could see this team go many ways. I think that tight end could potentially be a need, but I think that they address that. So could they go an offensive tackle here, go with Antoine Harrison? I could definitely see that happening. Could they also go edge rusher with Will McDonald? I think in the end, offensive tackles are really needy for this Jaguars team. I think that Antoine Harrison will fit in quite well with this team. So have Harrison go on to pick number 24. Now we have pick number 25, and this is where I have another wide receiver going. I think that Zay Flowers fits perfectly with this New York Giants franchise. You know, a lot of question marks with this Giants wide receiver room. Zay Flowers is one of the speed threats that can really get, you know, whenever he gets in an open space, it's more than likely they're going to be a big play or he's going to find the end zone. So I think that, you know, the Giants could either go running back here, depending on what happens to Saquon Barkley. But in the end, I think that they go pass catcher here, another weapon for Danny Dimes to throw to. So now we go on to their rivals, the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 26. And this pick just makes too much sense for me to pass up on Bijan Robinson. I know that they have Tony Pollard, but they did cut Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, Bijan Robinson, if he's on the board at pick number 26, there is no way that I see Jerry Jones passing up on him. If he's not, then I could see them going tight end, pair up another Dalton. They lost Dalton Schultz. Could they go Dalton Kincaid, or could they go Michael Mayer as well? So I think that that would be a phenomenal pick, though. Bijan Robinson will be the pick for the Dallas Cowboys at 26. And now we go on to pick number 27, the Buffalo Bills. Could we see them go on the the interior of the offensive line? I think that they do. O'Cyrus Torrence is one of the best interior offensive linemen in this draft class. Why not waste any time to get Torrence here at pick number 27 and help out your offensive line that really buckled down the stretch, or they let up too many sacks, especially in that Bengals game in the snow. Now the Bengals, I think this is pretty easy. They need some tight end help. I think they get one of the best tight ends in this draft class, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. He's one of the best blocking pass and pass catching tight ends in this draft class. So I think it would be very hard for the Bengals to pass him up. And now we have the Saints at pick number 29. You still have, one of the best safeties in the draft class, Brian. I would definitely be hard to pass up on. But I think that really the main priority for this New Orleans team is defensive tackle. They lost a couple of key guys to free agency. They did sign some key guys also through free agency. So, come in and then come out. But I think that they add at least one more body into the interior. The Saints run defense was a little bit up and down in 2022. Kalijah Kancey, I really love as a draft prospect. I think that he fits in. He's going to go in the 20s at some point. I'm not sure if he's going to fall all the way to pick 29, but if he does, I think that the Saints are going to waste no time here. I think that with pick number 30, the Eagles are not going to waste any time. They're going to go with Brian Branch. They're not going to let him fall any longer. I think that Branch is by far one of the best safeties in this draft class. I think that with the Eagles, Another SEC pick. They picked one of the best edge rushers out of Georgia, Nolan Smith. Add Brian Branch. That is a tremendous top 2 picks there for the Eagles. And now we go on to pick number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. I could see the Chiefs sneak in a wide receiver here, either go Jalen Hyatt or Josh Downs, or maybe do they go with an offensive tackle here? Or could they go tight end? I think they go tight end here. I know they have Travis Kelce, but why not pair him up with another stud? Go with Dalton Kincaid. Maybe you can run little maybe put, Travis Kelce in the slot and move in Dalton Kincaid to that tight end slot. So I think that the Chiefs are an open book. They could go offensive tackle here, but a lot of offensive tackles are off the board. If they were, DeJuan Jones would fit in well here. But since all the offensive tackles are off the board, I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid, the second best draft class. And then pick number 32, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock, and this is going to be another defensive player for them. I think they go with Clemson's Brian Brzee to win the draft. So that is the final mock draft. It's going to be an awesome event coming up. The 2023 NFL Draft will kick off on April 27th and go all the way through the weekend. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Always love watching the draft, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week.